Welcome to the Underrepresented in Tech podcast, where we talk about issues in underrepresentation and have difficult conversations. Underrepresented in Tech is a free database with the goal of helping people find new opportunities in WordPress and tech. Hi, Samah. How are you? I said your name weird that time. Why did I say it that way?
Not at all. I'm okay. I'm okay-ish. How are you, Michelle? My voice is
Yeah,
can come and go, but it's kind of a nice of a change,
it's a
Once in a
little
while you have
raspy, I know.
especially when I laugh, I feel like I'm little small evil Smurfy, like
Yeah. It's like all those women in the movies that are trying to be like really, sexy or whatever. You have that really low voice.
yeah. I mean, I'm a loud voice and this is a good change for me for once. Yeah.
I love it. That's funny. Well, I sent to you earlier, and I know you had a chance to look at it, but to fill everybody else in, I sent to you the survey that on gender equality in WordPress business that has been put out by the WP Includes team, which is Siobhan McEwen and Francesca Morano have WP Includes, which is if people aren't aware of it, we did a episode, I did an episode with them last fall, so I'll tag that in the show notes so people can kind of get to know the project a little bit more. But WP Includes is a mentorship program for women in WordPress to women who are directors and the C-suite of WordPress to mentor women who aren't and want to be, right? So to get the idea
Yeah.
is to get more women at the higher levels of business across WordPress. So maybe it won't be quite so male dominated going forward. And so I thought we could talk about that today. I did take the survey yesterday, so that I would be able to talk about, the process and how long it took and that kind of thing. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I mean, are you familiar with WP Includes? Did you just have a look at it to see what it was all about?
Honestly, I know a little bit, not that a lot of
Yeah.
information about, but I know Francesca personally, and I
Yeah.
know she's the right person for it. And I love this initiative because I believe that is really important to bring more women to WordPress or leadership position in company for at WordPress. I love
Yeah.
it, and for the survey, I was really impressed. Like I also filled it out. I was like the last couple 10 questions left for me, but it's really interesting and it takes time to you thinking about your answers
Yeah.
and then but I cannot wait what they're going to do with the results. I don't know when the
I
deadline to
know.
fill it out, how what they're going to do with the results.
So I did so Ray Morey is the person who forwarded it to me at our underrepresented in tech address. And I did include it in our recent newsletter that went out. So if anybody's looking for the link, we absolutely will have the link here in the show notes as well. But sign up for our
Yeah.
newsletter because we send out some pretty cool stuff every month. Um, but aside from that, and this month was like, oh, meet Samah. She's our new co-host and partner. And so that you featured prominently this week or this month in the newsletter. But WP includes .me, which I love that, right? WP includes me. I think that's a really cool
Yeah.
URL for sure.
Yeah.
But the whole idea, and this, I'm not sure exactly, I can't remember exactly when they launched, but it was within the last year, absolutely within the last year. And the idea, again, is to pair mentors with mentees, with women who are looking to, you know, learn more about how to climb the corporate ladder within WordPress. And so Ray sent over to us at Underrepresented in Tech the press release and the link to the survey so that we could include that going out. And so I thought it'd be a great thing to talk about this week for sure.
Mm.
Um, and I emailed back and I said, is there a deadline to complete the survey? Because I thought if they want good data, maybe we need to tell people a
Yeah.
deadline. And she said, well, they will keep it open because they don't want, they don't want to just say it over and done. However, they will start to compile the results after 6 weeks. So I think we're
Okay.
about a week in. So people, if you really want your data to be included, take a look at that survey link. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to fill it out. It's a lot of there are a lot of just like click the box answers, right? So you can go through that part fairly quickly. And then there's some open areas where you can really give some feedback about how you have experienced life as a woman in WordPress and how your company supports women and supports different parts, aspects of being a woman. So whether it's family medical leave, whether it's breastfeeding at work, menstrual health at work, all of these things that
Mm.
are part of womanhood, and even not to say biological women either, right? So like I'm talking about trans women, I'm talking about women in general, and we all have maybe a trans woman is not somebody who has to deal with breastfeeding, but there are other parts of being a woman, whether you are bio, trans, like however you identify. And so we want to know. We want to know what it's like. I say we. I want to know because I'm going to read the survey, but WP includes wants to know what your experiences are. And so I think it's worthwhile to take 15, 20 minutes and respond to their survey. You can do it anonymously. I know there
Yes.
are some people that are afraid to put their business name in there. They're afraid to put their own name in there. As a woman, I understand that because the fear of you having said something negative about your company is real. The fear of backlash and those kinds of things, should your name ever come out as having said anything untoward about your company, is definitely a fear. But they promise anonymity even if you're able to put that information in there. So you shouldn't fear putting it in there, but absolutely you can answer the survey anonymously. Um,
I'm really happy and about it and excited at the same time because like this gender equality, I want to see if there's also geographic uh difference. Of course, there's
yeah.
going to be difference between Europe and the States and if companies in Asia because of course gender equality is a basic human rights for everyone, for all of the
Hmm.
community. But of course, we're not going to talk about the we can talk, of course, about the salary
Yeah.
gap and maternity leave. Here, even Netherlands is different from another country. Is
Hmm.
Sweden, Denmark from a different country is Switzerland.
Hmm.
A lot of European countries we have a different maternity leave, and
Yeah.
like I think in Iceland was scored in 2023 are the best country in gender equality around the world. So that's something really impressive. And
Yeah.
at the same time yeah, I cannot wait for the results.
Yeah.
I wish I can move, have the time machine to move 5 weeks ahead.
Me too. When my daughter was born, now I'm, in my 50s and my daughter is 32. So we're talking a little ways back, right? It feels like yesterday to me, but I
Yeah.
recognize that it was not. But 32 years ago, it your company could decide what your maternity leave looked like as far as paid time off. And so I had 6 weeks. And that's all. I had
Hmm.
6 weeks to physically recover from a very traumatic childbirth because I
Yeah.
had a very difficult childbirth. And then also bond with my baby and make sure that she was, getting the best start to her life that she could. And then I had to hand her to a caregiver and go to work every day at only
Oh,
6 weeks postpartum. And it's easy to see, even if you take out the chemical makeup of postpartum depression, which is very real. But the depression of handing your child at only 6 weeks to a caregiver so that you can go to work and help somebody else's business make money, that's enough to bring on any kind of depression and things like that. So I think you're right. It's absolutely different all over the world. Now, since my daughter was born, we do have Family Medical Leave Act that has been enacted here in the United States, which means that you can take longer, but it's not guaranteed that you're paid during that time. And
no.
there is still a lot of discretion left to the state and the company. And there's just so much in the United States. We're a huge country, and we have states' rights, and things happen at the state level. There's federal mandates, but they always supersede the states. However, a lot of that doesn't come into state legislation. So it's not easy. I can say something happens here in New York, it's very different in
Yeah.
California, so or even just in Pennsylvania, one state away. So and then to say around the world, things look very different as well. So, and then what happens, not even just around childbirth and bringing new life into the world, but how how are you supported as a woman? Does your C-suite the people at the top of, I say C-suite. I don't know that everybody knows what that means, but that's like your
Yeah,
CEO,
sea
your
level.
CTO, your CFO, all of the C-level um, people running your company, your directors. What of the percentage of that in your company, of those people in your company, are women versus men? And how are women supported and grown up into, not grown is probably the word, but promoted up into those kinds of ranks? It's early here, so you'll have to forgive some of my poor choice of
No
words.
worries. No worries at all. It's no. Yeah.
But how do we, how is that looked at in your company? And I'm very happy to say that the president of our company is a woman. And so that makes me happy. And could we do better? Of course, every company could do better. I don't care how good it
Definitely.
is, there's always opportunity
Yeah.
to do better for people in general, right? But especially as we are women finding our place in technology. And so
At
I feel,
Yoast,
go ahead.
yeah, sorry. I was saying at Yoast, it's really amazing because most of our C levels are women,
Yeah.
except one person, which is Taco. He's not only male, but the last 2 months we have a new two leadership, Will and Nico. They are of course men, but we have more women in leader position than men.
Hmm.
So that is something really amazing. It's one of the IT companies that the leadership, also the CEO, the CCO, like we have a lot of position are like held by women, which is
Yeah.
it's really nice and welcoming environment. But at the same time, also the recruitment process of the IT company or any company or even WordPress company, it's you and do something really smart. They write some position. Women are encouraged to apply for high positions, and that
Hmm.
is like there's a study showed that when women read this, there's high chance of more women apply for the position. That you
Hmm.
are welcome because three podcasts ago we talked about the women that we have to check 10 points, all of the skills, while men only one thing, and then they can apply for the job. I think
Right.
that's a recruitment policy that can also attract more diversity, more women
Hmm.
to leadership positions. Yeah.
Yeah. I once, excuse me, I've talked about this in the past with Allie on the podcast, that I once was asked why women in particular weren't applying to a particular company. Okay. And so I took a look at their application, and their recruiting page gave all of the details about the job, except the salary, but they do that now.
Yeah.
So, but back then they weren't putting the salary on there. But I like the salary transparency in hiring is becoming a better thing. But um, they did, so they had all of the information. And then at the bottom, right before you would fill out an application, it said, if you think you might be a good fit for this job, apply below. And I said, well, as women, we already doubt ourselves. We already have imposter syndrome. And you've
Mm.
just said three words that will make me doubt myself. You said, if, I think,
I
I
haven't. Yeah.
might, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, hey, apply below, right? Like there's the whole thing. You like what you see, apply below, right? If you want the challenge of more
Yeah.
applicants, which we all do, so we can get the cream of the crop. If you want more people to apply, remove doubt. Let them read the job description and determine that they think that sounds good for them, and then apply below. Remove the doubt. And so I think that there's a lot that we can do within our companies to remove the doubt and take away that imposter syndrome. And I don't know if I know you've mentioned it to me. I don't think you've mentioned it on the show. Maybe you did,
Yeah.
that you have a women, I think it's Women in Newfold.
Yes, we have this amazing empowered women group called WIN, which is like Women in a New Fold. Newfold is the mother company for Yoast, and they have a lot of companies like Yes in Europe. So we get together once every 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and all women or who identify themselves as women can
Mhm.
join the group. And oh my God, we're talking about things like and the conversation and even funny because the next topic is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it in May because that is something that all of us, all of the women around the world, sometime in our life, we dealt with it
Yeah.
or we are dealing with it. So I think, yeah, and that's something really I love, to empower women, because also
Hmm.
the lead of this chapter, or say this group, are um C-level women. So that's something really powerful. But also, I want to say something.
Hmm.
We as women, if we don't find someone to give us also the chance to help within the organization, it will be very difficult for us to grow, to be a leadership position, to be a manager position. That also, the chance also, when you see women in leadership, you say like, oh, she made it. Maybe
Hmm.
it's also for me. I can
Yeah.
made it there once. It's yeah.
I give a lot of, I don't want to say even credit, but gratitude to women who have gone before me into those positions that made it possible for me to follow, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I think of like, I can only speak to the American experience in some things, right? But like Sally Ride in the 70s was the first woman to go into space and as part of the
Yeah.
NASA space program. She opened the door for other women to be able to do that, right? She
Yeah.
breached those barriers and pushed hard to be accepted at the level. And I'm sure she wasn't as accepted then as women are today, right? So it was more
Yeah.
difficult battle for her to do that. Recently, we had I think it was the Boston Marathon. And it was either the Boston or the New York Marathon that there was the first time a woman ran. They didn't want women. They didn't allow women
Oh.
to run in the marathon. And that woman, she was like, as men ran past her, they pulled on her shirt, they pushed her, they tried to make it impossible for her to finish, but she finished. And I think it's like 50 years later, she ran it again this year as accepted
Oh.
as a woman because women can now run in the marathon
Right.
because she did first, right? So, like the first woman to do something, whether it's work at your company, run a marathon, or go into outer space, it was more difficult for that woman than it is for women today. And the women of today are making it easier for the women of tomorrow to also follow suit. So I think it's like when you come across a big wall and there's only one door, then you have this like giant convergence of people in through that one door. And I feel like
Yeah.
we just keep making the door wider and wider by pushing through it. And I think that that's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Like from my own culture, from Europe, of course, there's a lot of stories. But yeah, those women who's opening or make things for us easier, and hopefully for the women yet to come in life, for your daughter, for hopefully I have a daughter, and then all of those, so life will be easier for them,
Hmm.
because it's so difficult. There's a book, I don't want to say I don't like it. It's called Lean In.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know it. She said,
Hmm.
like, you have to make, there's one part that I don't like it, that she said you have to sit on the table. But she forgets something, that if you're from different group around the world, or from different ethnic background, you need the people on the table to give you chance to let you sit on the table. It is
Hmm.
it is also the women who supporting women, because at the end, let's be honest, of course, a lot of men support women, but we have the sisterhood, we need to
Hmm.
support each other, empower
Yeah.
each other, because all of us know your our hormonal cycle, other things we deal with them with life. If you have kids and you're working full-time mom, or you're single mom and you feel the guilt of leaving your kids at home while you're going to do the work, or you're missing a
Hmm.
lot, all of those things make us more bond together and encourage each other. And for me, for WordPress community, I don't know, there's one thing, the maybe also the financial burden, because I know a lot of them contribute, or they do a lot of things for free, and that sometimes
Hmm.
can take a little bit of their time. But I'm seeing the number of women are getting more and more, so I'm
Yeah,
happy about it, and
me
hopefully,
too.
yeah, it hopefully will be more than 50%,
Well,
be more than 50.
I'm definitely encouraged by like this year's WordCamp Europe. The speaker lineup is so much better balanced than it has been in the
Yeah.
past. And I see so many more women's names on that list. And I didn't do the count. I can't tell you percentage. I think somebody else has, but if it's not close to half, it is half. And that's I mean, that just makes me so happy, right? That there's so many women who are going to be
Yeah.
able to be represented on the stage and share their knowledge and share their experiences to help other people. And I think something important, and we just keep talking about women being able to open the door for women, but women sharing their knowledge helps men too. Like there are things
Definitely.
that I can say and you can say that we can teach that men don't know either, right? So
Yeah.
you're always further ahead in the learning curve of whatever it is than other people, and that includes men too. So getting women on the stage means that men can also learn. Getting women in those directors positions, those C-suite positions means that men are also blessed, and maybe blessed isn't the right word, but um I've come from a very church background, so sometimes those words come into play.
No
I
way.
was raised up so much, but men are also enhanced, and they can,
Yeah.
their lives can be made better, and their work situation can be made better because women are sharing their knowledge and sharing their experiences as well. So it's just like the idea that if we make the web, if we make physical spaces accessible for people with disabilities, everybody benefits from that,
Yes,
right?
definitely. Yeah.
And so having women on the stage, having women in positions of leadership, everybody will benefit from that too. Even if those men who are very conservative and disagree, they are still benefiting from that. And I'm sure we'll hear from them in the comments if they're listening, but I don't think those are the people that listen to this podcast, quite honestly. So it's okay. But and people are always free to disagree with me. I'm happy to have those conversations. I had a conversation earlier this week with somebody. It was a texting conversation, which made it much more difficult, actually, who said that because I was telling them about underrepresented in tech, if we really advocate that more underrepresented people take work or get work and take leadership roles, that we are just moving them from someplace else and displacing the men and the white men that are at the leadership, and that it really is just it's a mathematical problem. It isn't a people problem. And I was like, oh dude, you are so wrong. but
Oh my
but
God.
but when people are so firmly ensconced in their beliefs, whether we agree or not, it's
Yeah.
so hard to move that needle for them. So
Yeah.
hopefully I placed some thoughts that maybe at some day will permeate and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, maybe she was right." But who knows? Like I can't change everybody. I can only give my story and share my thoughts.
No, it's for me,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I want to go back to the speaker line in WordCamp Europe. I noticed I'm really happy about it, and I want to brag a little bit, like if I
Yes,
can, for five
please.
seconds, because yes, Diversity Fund helped a lot in I don't want to mention their names or of course how
Sure.
many, but help like a good number of women or people from underrepresented group to speak at WordCamp Europe
Yeah.
2024. We're gonna help with them. So that is something one of the things I love about WordPress, this that we help each other. The
Mhm.
diversity fund is helping women to go, but also um, about the you're saying sometimes men they don't know, sometimes they don't know what's the struggle
Yeah.
as us as we women, what we go through, but yeah, sometimes educating them it's the best tool, and at
Hmm.
the same time, yeah, you should share more, have a more conversation between the two genders to let them
Hmm.
know, because for us women, and I'm sorry to just come to work when you're on in your period, and just like you have to be productive like
Hmm.
a person, like a male who has his hormone all of the time in the same level.
Right.
It's even miracle, and we
Yeah.
still smile, we're still productive, we're still creative, and we just have a normal day. So
Mm.
I think that is something men should know about, the
Yeah.
hormonal cycle for all of the
Well, just
women.
the pain, right? So many women. I
Yeah.
was one of those women. I'm in menopause now, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. But I was one of those women that for 30 years of my life was almost incapacitated by the pain that would
Yeah.
come with having my period. And the I heard studies in the last year that for some women's those extreme pains is the same level of intensity as a heart attack.
Oh.
As having a heart attack. And if a man had to work through a heart attack, like women every month worked through menses pain, the world would be a little bit different, right? Like there
Yeah.
would be a difference in how we treated people who were dealing with that level of pain. And I've heard stories of, male bosses mad that women have like hot water bottles or heating pads at their desk because they don't want to know about women having their periods. And it's like, oh, dude, half of the people on this planet experience that. Like, get over yourself, you
It's like
know?
your wife, your daughter, your mother, your sister, your aunt, all
Yeah.
of it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Portugal or Spain, they have it in their law. Women can take up to 3 days per month out of your sick leave for period pain and the changing for hormonal.
Yeah.
I think that is really amazing. But yeah, those people who doesn't want to talk about it, we should talk about it
Yeah.
because you get better
Absolutely.
understand if what's happening with me. And it's
Hmm.
also for me better understand when I'm gonna be creative or when I can do more thinking stuff or
Hmm.
more, let's say, autopilot work
Yeah.
other than having brainstorms about a big project. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to try to circle back to the beginning of our conversation. I love that WP includes in the survey the um the idea of support for menstruation, the support for childbirth, the support for
yeah,
um I forgot the other words I was thinking of, but family medical leave, the and
yeah,
childbirth and all of these things, breastfeeding, that was the one I was looking for. That
yeah,
are, and I love that they include those things because if a company, if somebody, even if it's a woman at the helm of the company, is reading that, might think, "Oh my gosh, we have never included that.
yeah,
We should." So maybe it's also just taking the survey is also planting some seeds of ideas for how to
definitely.
support women at work. So I think that's a great thing. So
Yeah, it
we
is.
will include all of those links. Also, we
Yeah,
will include the links to the Yoast Diversity Fund as well, if people are interested.
definitely.
All of that will be in this week's show notes. So yeah, so we always say we would love to hear from you. We have a Twitter account. The DMs are open. If you have ideas, DM us there. Samah and I know my Twitter DMs are open, and I know you can find us both all over Slack and different Slacks.
Yeah,
So reach out if you have ideas for us to talk about in the future. If you have ideas about this topic, we would love to hear from you. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I've got some ideas for next week, but we'll talk about that before we actually make it public. But yeah,
definitely.
but if you've made it this far, thank you so much for hanging with us. Let us know what you think about women in the workplace, and please take a few minutes out of your day to complete that survey over at it's a Survey Monkey survey. We'll include that again in the show notes. But for wpincludes.me. Any final words, Sama?
I will tell everyone I'm getting better and replying in my Slack. So of course they can reach out on Twitter. Now I'm raising my game. So
I've influenced you.
thank you. So
I
no,
love it.
just like wait for us next week. We'll have
Yeah,
amazing things for sure, like always.
yeah.
And thanks for listening to us. And yes, do the survey. Do the survey.
That's right. We'll put it out. We'll also share it on Twitter today, and
Yeah.
and a few other times going forward, just to make sure that everybody can see that message. So, thank you so much for joining me, even though you're not feeling so well today. Hopefully, next week you'll be back to 100%.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're interested in using our database, joining us as a guest for an episode, or just want to say hi, go to underrepresentedintech.com. See you next week.